Hey guys, Dimension Master Studios here. How y'all doing? So, if you guys have been around in the Ninjago fanbase for a while, then I'm sure you guys know that one thing that a lot of fans tend to talk about is the idea of a Ninjago CMF series. And for those of you who don't know what that is, a CMF series is a collectible minifigure series. LEGO has been doing this for years, and one thing that Ninjago fans have really wanted is one for Ninjago. Now, technically, we did get a CMF series for Ninjago back during 2017. However, that was a CMF series for the movie, and when it comes to Ninjago fans, they want one based around the show. And many fan made CMF series have been made over the years. And so in today's video, I decided to throw my headband into the ring by sharing with you guys my personal CMF series for Ninjago. Let's get into this whole thing. However, before we get into anything, there are a couple of things that I want to say first. For starters, this CMF series is going to be based on my own opinions. Your CMF series can be completely different, and that is totally fine. Feel free to leave your own personal CMF series down below in the comments. Secondly, this CMF series will contain one minifigure from every single season of Ninjago, grand totaling up to 18 minifigures in total. This CMF series will not be including any minifigures from Dragon's Rising, however, mainly because at the time of me making this video, Dragon's Rising is still ongoing, and although there have been some great potential minifigure choices when it comes to Part 1, I feel like it's possible that Part 2 could also end up giving us a lot of really great options for potential minifigures. But if you guys want me to, after Part 2 releases, I could make a Part 2 to this video where I make a Ninjago Bricktober pack and I include a minifigure from Dragon's Rising. But until then, we'll just have to wait and see. And so with all that out of the way, let's get into my CMF series. So for starters, we have the pilot season, and when it comes to the pilot season, the minifigure choice that I'm going with, I think is a pretty creative idea, with it being the Black Gi variations of Jay, Cole, and Zane. These were the first ever outfits that we saw these characters wear when it comes to the show, with all three of them wearing black versions of their pilot season outfits, which I think is pretty interesting. Now, when it comes to the CMF series, I can only include one minifigure for the pilot season spot, and the character who I'm going to be going with for the pilot season is Zane, so his accessories would be shurikens. However, here's where the creativity comes into play when it comes to this minifigure, because if you wanted to, you could swap out the head and the accessories in order to turn this minifigure from Zane into either Jay or Cole. So essentially, instead of getting one minifigure, you would essentially get three minifigures for one if you were to get this minifigure, which, like I said, I think is a pretty creative idea. Up next, we have Season 1, and the minifigure choice that I'm going with is Date Outfit J. I honestly really like it when LEGO gives us more casual versions of the ninja, and I think us getting another casual version of Jay would be something pretty interesting. This version of Jay would be based on his appearance during the episode Once Bitten, Twice Shy when he was on his date with Nia at the Mega Monster amusement park, and when it comes to this minifigure, I'd imagine that it would have a double-sided head. On one side of the head, it would show Jay normally, but on the other side of the head, it would show Jay turning into a serpentine, which is what happened to him during the episode. And as for the accessory, I think it would be cool if this minifigure got a brick-built burger in order to represent the burger that he and Nia had on their date at the Mega Monster amusement park. Up next, we have Season 2, and the minifigure choice that I'm going with is Dr. Julian. Dr. Julian has been a heavily requested minifigure for a very long time, and honestly, I really want to get a Dr. Julian minifigure. When it comes to the minifigure, it would obviously be based on Dr. Julian's appearance during the events of Season 2, and for the accessory, I think it would be cool if this minifigure had a little brick-built stand and a bird piece, which is meant to represent the Falcon. Up next, we have Season 3, and the minifigure choice that I'm going with for Season 3 is Teacher Kai. This is a very different version of Kai compared to what we're used to, with this version of Kai being based on his appearance during the first episode of Season 3, where he and the rest of the ninja were teachers at Sensei Wu's school. Like I said earlier, I really like it when LEGO gives us more casual versions of the ninja, and I think us getting another casual version of Kai would be something pretty interesting. And when it comes to the accessory, I'd imagine that it would be a Technoblade, but I think it would be really cool if, when it came to this Technoblade, it was actually a powered down version of a Technoblade, because we never got a powered down version of a Technoblade, and I think it would be pretty interesting if we got a powered down Technoblade in LEGO form. Up next, we have Tournament of Elements, and when it comes to Season 4, the minifigure choice that I'm going with is Anachondri Skylar. This is a very different version of Skylar compared to what we're used to, with this version of Skylar being turned into an Anachondri, which is what happened to her during the final few episodes of Season 4. Like I said, this is a very different version of Skylar compared to what we're used to, and I think it would be pretty cool if we got this version of Skylar in minifigure form. And honestly, I feel like the same goes for Anachondri Chen and Anachondri Garmadon. I honestly think it would be pretty cool if we got the Anachondri versions of all these characters, but when it comes to the CMF series, the character who I'm going with is going to be Skylar. And as for the accessory, I think it would be pretty interesting if we got either a microfigure or a brand new piece to represent Pythor. At the end of Season 3 and for most of Season 4, Pythor was shrunken down to a very small size, and I think it would be pretty interesting if we got a small version of Pythor in LEGO form. Up next, we have Season 5, and when it comes to Season 5, the minifigure choice that I'm going with is Sensei Lloyd. This is a version of Lloyd that we saw during the final episode of Season 5, with him wearing Garmadon's Season 4 Sensei outfit. And when it comes to this minifigure, it would be Lloyd wearing Garmadon's Season 4 outfit, but I still think it would be pretty cool if we got this version of Lloyd, especially since when it comes to Dragon's Rising, we're seeing Lloyd as a mentor with him teaching Eren and Sora, and given the fact that Season 5 was essentially the starting point of Lloyd's master storyline, I think it would be cool if we got a minifigure based around the starting point of Lloyd's master storyline. I think that would honestly be something pretty cool. And when it comes to the accessory, it would obviously be the Sword of Sanctuary. Up next, we have Skybound, and when it comes to Season 6, the minifigure choice that I am going with is Wedding Dress Nia. Once again, this is another very different version of a character compared to what we're used to, with Nia wearing a wedding dress. This is the outfit that she wore during the final 2 episodes of Season 6, and I think it would be pretty interesting if we got this version of Nia. Her accessory, I'd imagine, would be a syringe piece in order to represent the dart that's filled with Tiger Widow venom, and just like Date Outfit J, I'd imagine that when it comes to this minifigure, it would have a double-sided head. On one side, it would feature Nia normally, meanwhile, on the other side of the head, Nia's eyes would be glowing green, which is meant to represent the time that Delara possessed Nia during the final episode of Season 6, essentially giving you 2 characters instead of 1 if you were to get this minifigure. Up next, we have Day of the Departed, and when it comes to DOTD, the minifigure choice that I'm going with is Ghost RX Cole. When we got the sets for Day of the Departed, we only ever got Cole after he was turned into a human, but we never got a version of Cole with him being turned into a ghost. In fact, when it came to Ninjago sets, we only ever got one set where Cole was a ghost. And I think it would be pretty interesting if we got another version of Ghost Cole. When it comes to this minifigure, it would be more show accurate because remember, during the events of Day of the Departed, Cole first unlocked his RX powers when he was still a ghost. And again, I think it would be cool if we got this version of Cole. I'm not sure whether or not the minifigure would be transparent like normal ghosts or solid like the original Ghost Cole minifigure, but either way, I just think it would be really cool if we got another version of Ghost Cole. And when it comes to the accessory, I'd imagine that it would be a green katana, because Cole uses a katana to fight back against gang students during Day of the Departed. After this, we have Season 7, and when it comes to Season 7, the minifigure choice that I'm going with is Dr. Saunders. Now, technically, we did get a Dr. Saunders minifigure released when it came to the Iron Doom set. However, that wasn't really a Dr. Saunders minifigure because it was just the face of Dr. Saunders on the back of the head of Acronix. And when it comes to this minifigure, it would be a proper version of Dr. Saunders. This minifigure would obviously be based on the appearance of Dr. Saunders during Day of the Departed and during Hands of Time, and when it comes to the accessory, I'd imagine that it would be a brand new watch piece in order to represent the one that we see Dr. Saunders holding towards the end of the first episode of Hands of Time. Up next, we have Season 8, and when it comes to Season 8, the minifigure choice that I am going with is Casual Harumi. We've gotten a lot of different minifigures based on Harumi over the years, however, we've never gotten a version of Harumi based on her casual appearance during Season 8, and I think it would be interesting if we got a casual version of Harumi. This minifigure would obviously be based on Harumi's appearance during the first half of Season 8, and when it comes to this minifigure, I'd imagine that it would have a double-sided head. On one side of the head, we would have Harumi with a more happy expression on her face, representing her manipulation with her pretending to be a good person, and on the other side of the head, we would see Harumi with a more evil face, representing the fact that she is actually a villain and she was tricking everyone the entire time. And when it comes to her accessory, I would imagine that it would be a knife piece, representing the one that she uses multiple times during Season 8. Up next, we have Season 9, and the minifigure that I am going with for this season is Mistake. Now, technically, we did get a Mistake minifigure released with the Ninjago City Dock set. However, that minifigure isn't very accurate to the show, meanwhile, this would be a more show-accurate version of Mistake. This minifigure would be based on the way that Mistake looks for a majority of the show, and when it comes to her accessory, I'd imagine that it would be a teapot, because over the events of the show, she sold tea to people. Up next, we have Season 10, and the minifigure choice that I'm going with is Faith. Now, technically, when the Season 9 sets were released, we did get Faith minifigures. However, those minifigures were of Faith as heavy metal, not her as Faith. And I think it would be cool if we got a minifigure based around Faith as Faith. Now, when it comes to the minifigure, the torso and the legs would be the exact same as the heavy metal minifigure, and the only real difference would be the head and the hair. But still, I think it would be cool if we got a proper minifigure version of Faith. And when it comes to her accessory, I feel like it would make a lot of sense for it to be the Dragon Blade, because that is Faith's main weapon when it comes to the show. Moving on, up next we have Season 11, and the minifigure choice that I am going with for Season 11 is Fugidove. Fugidove would be a very different minifigure compared to every other minifigure when it comes to Ninjago, because unlike every other Ninjago minifigure, Fugidove doesn't have arms, but rather wings. This would make him a very unique minifigure compared to all the other ones that I've talked about, because again, he doesn't have arms, but at the same time, this would also make him the only minifigure in the CMF series to not have an accessory, because he isn't able to hold one because of the wing pieces. But still, I think it would be pretty interesting if we got a Fugidove minifigure, mainly because of how unique this minifigure would be compared to all the other Ninjago minifigures that we've gotten. Moving on to Prime Empire, the minifigure choice that I am going with is Milton Dyer. Milton Dyer is the only ninja ally that we got during Prime Empire who so far hasn't gotten a minifigure. Scott, Okino, and Racer 7 have all gotten minifigures. Meanwhile, Milton Dyer hasn't, and I think it would be pretty interesting if we got a minifigure based around Milton Dyer. This minifigure would obviously be based on Milton Dyer's appearance during the season, and when it comes to his accessory, even though Milton Dyer is never actually seen with it, I do think it would be pretty cool if Milton Dyer's accessory was the Prime Empire motherboard, because remember, when it comes to Milton Dyer, he was the person who created Prime Empire in the first place. Moving on to Season 13, the minifigure choice that I'm going with for this season is Dress Vanya. This is a version of Vanya that we see a few times during the season, with her having a dress rather than leg pieces, and her hair in a different style compared to the one that we got in the minifigure. And I think it would be interesting if we got this version of Vanya. In addition to a different version of Vanya, I think it would be cool if this minifigure included a brand new piece in order to represent the Shintaro wings. I think that would be pretty cool. I also think it would be cool if when it came to this minifigure on the head, there was some printing in order to represent a headband, because we see Vanya wearing a headband multiple times during the events of Season 13. However, her minifigure doesn't have a headband, so I think it would be cool if we got a version of Vanya that included the headband. And as for her accessory, I think it would be cool if we got a brand new piece in order to represent Chompy, Vanya's pet dragon. Up next, we have the island, and the minifigure choice that I'm going with is Twitchy Tim. Originally, Twitchy Tim was going to be included in a set that was going to be released for the island. However, the set that Twitchy Tim was included in ended up getting scrapped, so we never got a minifigure based around Twitchy Tim. And I think us getting a minifigure of Twitchy Tim would be kinda interesting. He would obviously be based on his appearance during the island, and when it comes to his accessory, I'd imagine that it would be a brand new piece in order to represent the gas pump that we see Twitchy Tim holding a few times during the events of the show. Moving on to Seabound, the minifigure choice that I'm going with is Maya. Despite Maya playing a pretty prominent role during the events of Seabound, we never got a version of her included in any of the Seabound sets. And I think it would be cool if we got a version of Maya based on her appearance during the events of Seabound. This minifigure, like I said, would be based on Maya in her Seabound outfit, and when it comes to this minifigure, I'd imagine that the accessory would be a trident piece representing the one that her and Nia used to escape from Calamar and his forces early on during the season. And finally, that brings us up to Crystallized, and the minifigure choice that I'm going with for Crystallized is a pre-crystallized version of Mr. F. I think that Mr. F has a pretty cool design when it comes to Crystallized prior to him getting his crystallized powers, and I think it would be pretty cool if we got this version of Mr. F in minifigure form, especially since we've gotten pre-crystallized versions of every other version of the council, and I think it would be cool if the same thing happened for Mr. F, and when it comes to this minifigure, it would obviously be based on Mr. F's appearance prior to him getting crystallized, and when it comes to his accessory, I'd imagine that it would be the blaster that we see him use multiple times over the course of the season. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is my own personal idea for a CMF series when it comes to Ninjago, but how about you guys? Tell me, what would your guys' personal CMF series be when it comes to Ninjago? Tell me down below and I hope you guys enjoy. Also, like I said towards the beginning of the video, if you guys want me to, after part 2 of Dragon's Rising releases, if you guys want me to, I will make a part 2 to this video where I make a Ninjago Bricktober pack and I include a minifigure from Dragon's Rising. Again, tell me down below if you guys want me to do that. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Later guys, this is Dimension Master Studios, signing off.